English Skills 2, How to Teach Spelling, class number 7. After reading chapter 1 of Teaching English in Missions by Jen Edwards Dormer, I would like you to give yourself a grade in each of the skill areas for effective teaching. How do you measure up? What area or areas do you need to improve? Our goals today is to understand and trace the history behind English spelling, to analyze the gradual development of the mechanisms of writing, and to collect techniques and strategies to teach spelling. What are the important components when learning to write in a new language? Well, we need to understand that writing is an act of communication. You need to keep in mind purpose and audience. Writers should produce a text that will adhere to Grice's cooperative principles. Grice talks about 4 important principles. Number 1, quality. You need to write what is true. Quantity. Don't write or don't say more or neither less than what you should, so don't be lengthy. Relevant. Don't write in circles or don't say things that don't have to do with the topic. And manner, don't be obscure. In academic or official exchanges in writing, it is important that the linguistic accuracy, clarity of presentation, and organization of ideas support the efficacy of the communicative act, since they supply the clues for interpretation. Finally, we also need to make students understand that legible handwriting, good punctuation, and accurate spelling are very important things if you want to be an effective writer. Let's watch a short video about the world's first written system. Who said spelling doesn't matter? Just look at some sad examples of misspelling. For students to be successful writers, they need to be able to understand the mechanisms of reading and writing. And we are talking about letter discrimination, sound-to-letter correspondence, word recognition, and basic rules of spelling. Letter discrimination has to do with your ability to recognize letters. Sound-to-letter correspondence is your ability to see a letter and recognize its sound. Word recognition, it says it all, so being able to look at a word and recognize it. And then basic rules of spelling is applying those basic rules based on, in the case of English, the letter environment. English spelling is not totally random, but governed by a number of predictable rules. Still, it's a complex and challenging system to figure out. Let's see a short video about basic English rules.
How to learn the basic spelling rules of English. English can be difficult because few words are spelled phonetically, and every rule has exceptions. But you can become a champ in no time by memorizing a few basic rules. You will need memorization skills. Step 1. Remember that the letter I comes before E except after C, or when sounding like A, as in neighbor or way. Exceptions include either, neither, weird, and sees. Step 2. Double the final consonant before adding an ending if the root word is one syllable long and ends in a consonant preceded by a vowel, or stressed on the last syllable. Step 3. Don't double the final consonant if the root word is one syllable long and ends in either two vowels followed by a consonant or two consonants, or stress is on the first syllable. Step 4. Drop the E at the end of a word if you're adding an ending that begins with a vowel. If the ending starts with a consonant, keep the E. If a root word ends in CE or GE, keep the E when you add a bull or us. Step 5. If you're adding an ending to a word that ends in Y, only change the Y to I if a consonant comes before the Y. Step 6. To make words plural, add ES to words ending in SS, SH, CH, and X. Otherwise, just add an S. If the word ends in a consonant and then a Y, change the Y to I before adding an ES. Most nouns ending in F or FE add VES, but as with all English rules, there are many exceptions. Step 7. Spell a word that ends with the sound ick with an ICK if it's one syllable and an IC if it's two syllables. The exception is compound words, a word made by joining two words. They always end in ICK. Did you know? Researchers have found no link between being a bad speller and a lack of intelligence.
For most of the 21 consonant letters, one-to-one letter-sound correspondence applies. The sound of some consonant letters will depend on the environment in which they occur, which means where the letter is or what's going on around that letter. Let's have the example of the letter C. The letter C can have the sound K sound when followed by A, O, and U, for example, carrot, cost, and cut, or by the consonant letters L or R, like climb, crib, but it sounds like an S sound when followed by the vowels E or I. Now let's take a look of the sound K, how it can be spelled, with a K like in kite, CK, tech, CH, chemistry, Q, queen, QUE, unique, KH, khaki, X, fox, CC, accord, CQ, acquire, and QQ, bookkeeper. That is very complex. The vowel letters in English present more complex sound spelling correspondences. The reason is because we have 5 vowels, but we could have possibly up to 11 different sounds. This is very challenging for foreigners. So how can we address that? Teach students to consider both the vowel letter and the environment in which it occurs. Teach them the consistent or predictable environments first. For example, consonant, vowel, consonant. Then you're going to have a lax vowel, like pen, 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 pot, but. Consonant, vowel, consonant plus an E at the end, tense or diphthongized vowel. Pain, pine, peat, rope, cute. Consonant, vowel, or just a vowel. Again, you have tense and diphthongized vowel. Go, be, I. So how do we teach mechanics? If necessary, enhance letter recognition. Practice sound spelling correspondences via all 4 language skills. Help the learner move from letters and words to meaningful sentences and large units of discourse. At this stage, encourage learners to correct capitalization and basic punctuation rules. So you start with a word like cat or mat, and then you put into sentences, the cat is on the mat, the cake is on the plate. To develop and use more demanding writing activities in the ESL, EFL classroom, we need to develop a detailed set of specifications that will enable both teachers and students to cope successfully with these tasks. So the first thing you need to keep in mind is the task description. You need to make sure it presents students with the goal of the task and its importance. The content description. It presents students with possible content areas that are relevant to the task. For example, social studies, science, etc. The audience description. This description guides students in developing an understanding of the intended audience, its background, needs, and expectations. Format cues. These cues help students in planning the overall organizational structures of the written product. Even for short messages or emails, students should learn to plan the format to ensure effective communication. Linguistic cues. These cues help students make use of certain grammatical structures and vocabulary choices that are appropriate for the intended message. Spelling and punctuation cues. These cues help students focus their attention on the spelling rules they have learned and eventually on the need to use a dictionary or a computerized spell check. Practical writing tasks. These are writing tasks that are procedural in nature and have a predictable format. For example, writing lists, writing notes, categorizing, labeling, etc. Emotive writing tasks. They are concerned with personal writing. For example, letter to friends, narratives about personal experiences, etc. School-oriented tasks. This is related to main ideas, descriptions, papers, etc. Dialogue journal writing at the early stages. While students, especially beginners, generate some personal input and receive the teacher's direct feedback on it. This is something like my daughter used to do when she was in elementary school. So she would draw like a picture and then describe what happened in her day, and then the teacher would write it back. That's a good idea. Let's see some guidelines for teaching spelling. Always start with the generalizations. What are they? They are like regular rules. Rules that students can apply mostly in general. And at the same time, while you teach general rules, you alert that there are exceptions and expansions to almost every rule. Teach them how to use a dictionary. Teach spelling hand in hand with new vocabulary. The expectation, your expectation, you need to keep it in check because expectation for perfect spelling may be unreasonable. Remember, even native speakers struggle with English spelling. Here are some alternative approaches to teach spelling. The Freemans in Essential Linguistics write, research has shown that when students read and write extensively, they acquire a subconscious knowledge of possible spellings in a language. Thus, instead of memorizing rules or lists of words, they suggest having them discover for themselves how the rules work on how certain sounds are spelled. This is what we call teaching rules inductively. Let's see the procedures. Have students look through reading materials to find as many examples as possible of words ending in, for example, ing, or words that end in el sound, for example. You might need to give some instruction on distinguishing root words based from suffixes. Then the students would look through these words to discover patterns and sort them into categories. Finally, they would attempt to arrive at generalizations, general rules, or rules that seem to apply. This is the inductive reasoning. This is an ideal approach, but time-consuming and possibly complicated due to exceptions. Other suggestions. Bruce Cronell writes, rather than simply testing and studying random lists of words, a better approach is testing words that illustrate various spellings. By various spellings, he means a sound that can be spelled several different ways. For example, the A sound can be spelled in all these ways, as you can see, like in late, train, steak, day, and able. You can also find online spelling materials like the Basic Cozy Spelling Course. You can go online and find that, or make sure students have access to a dictionary online nowadays. It's very easy. Teaching phonics can help. Phonics is a method of teaching beginners to read and pronounce words by learning the phonetic value of letters, letter groups, and especially syllables. So here I have a website. I can show you now. I cannot, but in class next time I'll show you. And I also found a website that has Bible-based spelling lessons. It's gardenofpraise.com. Finally, I hope you've watched the video Historical Timeline of English Spelling by Barbara Beers, because you had a video guide to complete. So we can discuss that and correct the video guide next class. I hope that was helpful, and see you soon.